Aussie, since you've come into the region, coming from down south, what's some of the concerns that you might, or some of the good things even, that you've seen in our region?
I think you're spot on with coaches will share. Sort of a bit like a cult. You know, you sort of run into a coach and how you going, what are your challenges, and all that sort of stuff. And I think what you started up here, Rick, is a huge plus. It's going to be definitely going to be some teething issues when coaches in the same league, you know, refuse to give up info and come to the same meetings to discuss challenges and stuff. But I've had forums in Melbourne with coaches in the same leagues, and there's some info you give, and there's other things you learn off of them, because you've still got that care factor for your players. But I mean, from guys outside of the area, I was probably overwhelmed with the sharing when I took up this job, which is a huge step up for me. And Justin, who you spoke about before, will know that Fitzy was one of the first ones on the phone to me. Hey, young fella, you got a big job, good luck with it. If you need any help at any stage, I'm here. And I think more than anything, even if this association opens that up, that'll be a big plus. And with the junior football, you know, it's probably statewide. You guys in the development side will know more than that, but something needs to be done there, and it is these guys with the junior coaching and getting the absolute most out of the players, making it enjoyable for them, so that these guys aren't going to play soccer or whatever at 14 or 15. They're actually seeing the benefits of our game and the positives of being in a football club environment. So that just comes down to responsibility, I reckon, Rick, and understanding it. And if you take on an under 10, 12s, 14s coaching job, it's not just your coaching job. You've got a responsibility to get these kids up to scratch, playing good footy, but also still involved and loving the game, coming through to senior footy.
One thing that Paul was big on when Paul first took over the role was coaching coordinators. It's something that we've really tried to push in clubs, and we realise it's another position. It's another position to hold, another volunteer at times. Some clubs have gone down the path with some paid role and different things, but we realise it's another spot. But I think it's just so important because that's someone that can help measure what Aussie's talking about with our junior coaches and watching the talent come through and making sure that our coaches are on the same page and all that sort of thing. Our senior coaches are very busy people, as we know, and have got their own issues and so on, and so are our under 10 coaches for that matter. They're dealing with parents, and which can be really tricky. So to have someone outside of that to help get the concepts of the senior coach right down through to our under 9s or wherever we're starting, I think is really important. And also someone to be looking at retention of players, someone to be looking at our numbers all the way through to make sure we're right for the next year, and doing that as early as, you know, July and so on, and make sure you're set up for the next year. Norm.
I was going to say, Rick, I think you're right with the coaching coordinators, because actually fact for the juniors in this region has grown by 20% over the last 4 years. So when we talk about juniors, the numbers and that, they're actually growing. So one of the things we're having though, our retention rates also is dropping. So one of the things we've really got to concentrate as a group, I believe in this room, is these coaching coordinators. We do have to have a pathway, because the kids are there, but why are they leaving football at that 15, 16 years of age? And I think that's something that Paul's trying to address now, but the kids are there. So what we've got to work on now is how do clubs retain them, and I think it's really is vital that we have those coaching coordinators, you know, understand that the kids are there, how do we retain them in football?
It is interesting, Rick, because, and I think what Damien talked about, we've got to challenge traditions. We've got to think about what we're doing, and that's our great challenge, I think, as coaches. We can't just use the example of our old coaches. We do. We look at our long coaches. What do they do? How do we go about things? We need to challenge them. It's right from an early age. Challenge the way we do things. And the bottom line is, I think coach education is as important an issue in this region as any other issue, because I think it can solve a lot of the problems. I think the drop-off we have in numbers is a lot about the coaching. It's about teaching the skills, having fun, teaching the skills and getting it right. It's a hard game. We take it for granted. It is a hard game. It's a hard game to learn to kick. I mean, My son kicked soccer ball at age 2. It's a lot harder to teach him to kick. I've got a kid, I've just moved to a new house, a kid out the back. He's going to go play soccer. Why are you going to play soccer? I don't know how to kick. It's too hard, it's all too difficult. And so we've got a great challenge. We've got to make sure that we're looking at the way we do things. Don't accept that the way we do things is the right way because that's the way I was coached. Don't accept it. I can promise you the way the game has changed in the last 10 years at AFL level, that has happened because you've got all these assistant coaches, everyone thinking, how can we make it better? You've got all these minds, how can we make things better? How can we change training? Challenging everything you do at training. Why do we do it that way? Why don't we try it this way? How does it relate to the game? So that's more at senior level. And then at junior level, it really is about us starting to challenge the way we do things. The biggest threat we've all got is to think, as coaches, that we know it all. I'm not saying anyone here would think that, but as soon as we start thinking we know it all, well, your time as a coach can be shortened dramatically. The one thing about Kevin Sheedy, I will say, he spent his whole time asking questions, and he's a bit wacky, but he spent all this time going around asking people things, trying to find out information. How can we get better? That's why he lasted so long. That's our challenge. Don't do things. Think about why you're doing them. If you're a junior coach, make sure it is about teaching skills. Make sure it's about having fun. Make sure it's about developing the kids. They're the great challenge we've got. And one of the reasons I'm so passionate about a coaching coordinator is we can't teach everyone. We can't get to every single coach in the region, but we can get to every coaching coordinator. We can work with coaching coordinators. We can expose them to new ideas. We can expose them to people like Damien. We can expose them to some of the coaches around the place. And it's something that can be done. And then they can go back and they can pass things on and they can work. And we can look at getting better. We can keep looking at getting better at everything we're doing. So that's our challenge. That's why I'm passionate about coaching coordinators, Rick. And I think it'd be great if everyone can come from this meeting and make sure we've got them. But take a lot of things that Damien's just said to us. Challenge yourself. Keep looking for better ways to do it. Keep thinking, why do we do it this way? And that's, I think, very much at junior level. I often think back and kicking is a hard skill to teach. I've been teaching Auskick the last 4 years. It's not that easy. It's not a simple thing to do. But you've got to keep working on it. You get so much reward and it will help kids down the track. And you know what it'll help them do? Stay in the game. Help them stay in the game, and that's why it's so important at that lower level. So I know we're going to do a lot of work on the Oz kickers.
Yeah.
You and I are going to be concentrating on that.
Yeah.
And but we want to see it go all the way through.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the hardest game in the world by a mile, and that's why we love it so much. There's so many elements to it. You've got to be an elite, skilled person with your by hand and foot. You've got to make quality decisions under pressure. You've got the physicality of it. You've got to be a gifted runner. Got to be able to jump and catch and all that sort of stuff. Sharpie.
Yeah, just adding a bit to what's already been said, all through policy, one of the key areas, obviously skill development is one of the most important areas, but I think coaching behaviour, the behaviour of the coaches and what they demonstrate in regard to sometimes win at all cost attitudes and yelling at kids is one of the critical things in kids dropping out of footy. And so the engagement levels need to be high, so certainly the skill development, all that, that's all part of it, we need to do that. But if kids drop out because of the way they've been treated as an individual, they've been intimidated, they've been embarrassed or ridiculed in any way, or felt uncomfortable, that to me is the most important thing. So I really think that we need to be coaching coaches around the acceptable standards of behaviour, so that we develop better cultures in our clubs, so that we have higher potential players. And I think if you have kids hang around, you can then start to get some consistency with your skill development. So, to me, that's probably, hand on heart, my key thing with coaching, because I see it. I've been involved as a senior coach going back 25 years ago, and now coaching juniors with my kids, and I certainly don't profess to know it all either, and like most of us, we're all learned it, but you sit back and cringe sometimes and you think, oh, geez, this is quite good, you know, well, one kid's not playing in this team because more than likely going to drop out, he's going to lose him. So that's my 2 goals worth.
Yeah, well, we've probably had the conversation a bit about wanting to rename junior coaches development coaches, to have that development mindset. It's so important, isn't it, that we're developing our young people. skills, game sense, the whole lot, but we're developing as young people and culture and whatever, and that's why coaches have such a huge job. You know, they're not only the skill development, the game sense, the moral compass for their club a lot of the time, and it's huge. So coaching coordinators might be able to take away some of that, and development managers and different things. So, Dave.
Just on a committee point of view, and this might be irrelevant to all youth coaches, but sometimes in the junior level, and we find it hard out that side of town, is that you can get people that are not necessarily right to do the job, coaching-wise, but they've got the time to do the job when you've got the kids there. And if these coaching coordinators can throw some of the development and that sort of stuff down to these people who've got the time that ain't necessarily footballers and that, this will be a damn good thing if it come out.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're not always blessed to have exactly who we want to coach our sides. Well, even my example, I come in as a late coach at 30, no experience. Had a 7-year crash course at South Bendigo, really. Thrown the job, said, "You do it, son. You're a good bloke," and went from there, really. And I had to learn pretty quick on the job, and had huge gaps in my coaching knowledge. So, and still have. That's why I'm so passionate about the AFCA, and I think that we've got a great opportunity to help develop our coaches at the grassroots, the entry point. So important to get that right. If we can get that right, but then also to be working on all of our coaches through the levels, because they might be in a similar position to what I was, thrown into a job out of his depth and not a lot of support around, obvious support around. So if we can get our support mechanisms a little bit more obvious for our coaches so that we can help out. And someone like me might be just that link person to help link someone up. I'm not going to know all the answers for sure, but if I can help people link up to where they can find their answers and so on, that's probably pretty much what I hopefully can be about. Anything else from the floor before we wrap it up?
Just a quick one, Rick. When Paul and Dave and I spoke at a previous chat at Mundy Street, we spoke a lot about resources that are out there and underused, and I know you guys have got them available for coaches in the area, but if you just use Google, which is obviously 2014, there's shit everywhere that can help you out with kicking techniques, coaching structures. Depending on your level, you can find it. So, talking about that responsibility, you know, I thought Damien's point about the improvement with players, it's actually their responsibility. We're there, we guide them, we give them information, but as coaches, that responsibility to know the info's up to us. So you've got to go and find it. It's not going to come to you, it's not going to just land in your letterbox. So if you've got a deficiency in your coaching or in your team, go find it because it's out there.
Yeah,
even AFL.com's got, right down the bottom, got a heap of development stuff.
Absolutely, and we googled an app just for the weekend to do some stats, you know, Great Coach or whatever it was called, just to do our stats on the weekend for our development stuff. So probably part of what my role needs to be is to get those resources down and make people aware of them and help promote, because once you start down that path, you become addicted, like we all are as coaches. Looking at footage, once my eyes were opened up to footage, you just become, you know, you can't get enough of it. So be brave enough to try something new, because it will usually take you in a pretty good direction. One little thing I don't reckon has changed much with our kids and people just in general is that when you give them a bit of time, that's what starts that relationship in it. When you go out of your way to make a bit of time for someone, particularly young kids, that's what starts that relationship. So that's why you guys are so important, all our coaches in our room. Doing a great job, guys. We've got a PD at Epsom on Wednesday night. I know a lot of you guys have already got commitments this week, but even just send an assistant coach, yourself, your ruckman, one of your junior coaches, whatever, all welcome. Darren runs great sessions, and it's a particular skill set that's really difficult, particularly for guys about 5'9", to understand and to coach, and couldn't jump. So take the opportunity, get someone from your club there. It should be a great session. So that'll start 6 o'clock out at Epsom. I think we're on number two, Dave? Number 2 oval. All right, so thanks for the effort to get you guys. Yeah, senior ruckman. Yep, senior ruckman, senior developing young ruckman. We'll be sending a couple of our lads. Dave's got some of his boys working there, so thanks for your time, guys. Really appreciate it. Well done.